Welcome back into the fourth draft. I'm your host, Erin Trafford. Thanks so much for being here. We've officially hit 12 shows. That's some sort of metric in the podcast world. Because if you hit 12, you're more likely to continue. So thanks for making it with me to the big 1-2. And it is the final show of 2023. And I'm sort of happy to see this year go bye-bye. It's been quite a year. So I wanted to wrap up the season of the fourth draft with a little bit of a retrospective and then a push forward. And I'm going to share with you some of what's been going on in my brain, the reading I've been doing that's helping inform some bold moves that I want to make. Actually, that I'm currently making, but that will manifest through the new year. So we're going to talk about what's inspiring me. We're going to talk about what I think might inspire you, some things to noodle over the holidays as this industry that we call the media continues to evolve around us. So the first thing I want to give you a little bit of insight on is we just came out of our first ever Story Studio Network. I'm going to call it an executive planning retreat, because the way that we have structured the company is that we have, everybody pulls their own weight. We operate in the sense that we're a village. We can't exist without any one member of the team. But there are certain members of the team who are more involved in the process planning and the goal setting, and then other members of the team who are just way more brilliant at taking that goal and running with it. And then giving feedback to the rest of the team. So we had a gathering, and it included myself. It was actually in my living room. It was myself. It was our COO, Jamie Nickerson, who, I don't know if you know this, but she has been with Story Studio Network since before we had a name. She's been with me since July of 2020. And I've known her longer than that. And I honestly cannot tell you what we would do without Jamie. So if you've done any work with us or you've interacted with us in any way, you have, I guarantee, interacted with Jamie, whether you knew it or not. So Jamie was here. Andrea Palacio. I try to say it like with her beautiful Spanish accent, but I cannot. She flew in to the East Coast here in Halifax from Toronto, but however, she is originally from Mexico. And it was the first time she'd seen the Atlantic coast. So that was super fun. And then, of course, my dad, Dave, was here as well. And our business development lead, Troy Lutz, was here, and because he's local here in Halifax as well. So we had a little bit of a jam. We ate some sandwiches. We had some chips. We had some pop. And we talked about, what do we want to do here? Like, who are we? And what do we value? And what do we envision? Not just for the company, but for the industry. And what are the contributions that we truly, truly, truly want to make? And the most glaring thing to me when you come out of these strategic retreats is what ends up not being said, and where the focus, you think the focus might end up, but it doesn't. And so there were two glaring things that we didn't really land on, which surprised me. Number one is, over the course of 2 days, I don't think we mentioned downloads once as something that we as a company want to be chasing. And it's interesting to me because I still see daily, in fact, multiple times a day on LinkedIn, from some of our would-be competitors who are still so focused on CPM sales, which are effectively download sales. And I'm not going to slag that as a revenue opportunity in terms of, it's basically selling volume. It's just, it didn't come up for us when we were talking about what are the core values at Story Studio Network, and chasing downloads. Just, we had every opportunity to put that on the board, and it didn't come up. The other thing that didn't come up, I mean, it came up tangentially, but it didn't come up as our primary driver, was revenue. Because I'm not in this. I mean, I want to make money. I want to make a living. I want to, put my kids through college. I want to do all these things. I don't want to go into massive debt to run a company. let's look at the large media companies in Canada. The majority of them are in crap tons of debt or have lost incredible value on the TSX. And I'm not suggesting that we are in any way, shape, or form that big, but I have no intention of running myself into the ground in order to realize this vision. So the interesting thing that didn't come up is that making money and squeezing money out of the market was not our primary driver either. So what came out of the 2 days was super interesting. So we started day one with a little bit of a visioning exercise, and it was like a retrospective and look back, look forward. And it was like, what did we do really, really well in 2023 as a team? And then what did we maybe, want to do better? And how did learning those things make us feel? And there were a lot of answers, varied, but there were some similarities when we did that thought exercise. And one thing that we recognized that we did really, really well is we refined our process. And that sounds so unsexy, right? I could say like, what we did really, really well is we had millions of downloads and we did millions of dollars in revenue and we created this many shows. And we did hundreds and hundreds of episodes this year. But what we really realized that we spent 2023 doing was refining our background processes so that it's like a slingshot, so that when we release ourselves in 2024, we can move faster, we can do better creative, we can work better as a team, we can serve more clients. So we discovered that. The one thing that we decided collectively as a company that we want to do better, and this goes through the whole media landscape, the word that came up for all of us was focus, is we want to be more focused. And that's hard for creative folks. It's hard for the media because we love shiny objects. We love the treat of the week. We love it. And I think sometimes that the big media folks treat podcasting like the treat of the week. And so I'm curious to see how that starts to play out as inevitably the world continues to catch on to the value of podcasting in a communications strategy. I think that is going to start to shift. So our intention is to focus on that now, even as the rest of the world is still turning their head, right? Okay, so focus is our main intention. Then we did a really fun exercise. And if you have a team or, a small team even, you can do this one virtually. I went into Canva and I created a bunch of mock-ups of the front pages of newspapers. And I kind of put dummy text and little blocks where the picture should be. And I handed them out to everyone. And I was like, okay, we have about 12 minutes here. And I had colored pencils everywhere and we had Post-its. It was really fun. And I said, okay, let's design our cover story. And I didn't give much more instruction other than that. I said, the only thing that you need absolutely to present to the team in 12 minutes is the date on the cover story and then the headline. And then we can fill in the blanks. And if you feel like doodling, pictures, then that's awesome. You can doodle pictures too. And what was super cool is that all of us had different headline stories. And all of us had slightly different dates on when we thought our company could achieve those headlines. So for me, my headline, and it was like a fake publication, it wasn't a real publication. What I've said I want to do by 2025, so I've given us a good 18 months to do it, is that I want to be the leading agency production team for mission and purpose-led organizations who have unique and courageous stories to tell. And I want to prove that the model that we are running right now at Story Studio Network is both profitable and a vessel for good. I want to take what I know about creative sales and about broadcast and about storytelling and redefine the model for both revenue generation and serving a community. That's what I see as the 18-month goal with SSN. And in my picture, it was funny because I was kind of just doodle, and I drew a building in the background of the picture with my little stick figures and whatever. And I said, oh my goodness, did I just put into play that Story Studio Network is going to have a physical space by 2025? I mean, a building? That would be unreal. But I wrote it down, so maybe it'll manifest. A couple of the other interesting cover stories were Andrea, being that she is the strategic brain, metrics and promotions, and she's really got her finger on the pulse of that. She kind of took a macro lens and made it that finally the world starts catching up to understanding how to read the metrics of podcasts. And it's a more powerful medium than we even realized. So hers was very qualitative. She drew lots of graphs and indications of and that. And I love that because it was so much in line with her personality, is that she likes to look at the data and tell a story. And so her projection was the data is going to start to tell a better story. So it was really, really fun. We got really anchored in what it is that we want to do. And then where it all landed after 2 days is that we identified our 3 key values going into 2024. And these are values that we hold as people. These are values that we hold as a company, but also that I think we want to hold our clients and the industry to as well, to reflect back at us. And it was based a lot in how I think, my experience in media, certainly my father's experience in media and colleagues' experience in media, the rest of our team, is that these 3 values exist, but in silos. And because they exist in silos in mainstream media, they can't collaborate and integrate with each other. And so they lose power. My belief is that at SSN, we're going to be able to take these 3 values and really put them all on one plate together and hold ourselves accountable to how they, when put together, create a stronger whole. And those 3 values are the following: curiosity. Every good production we have done, every successful show we have endeavored to do at SSN has started from a fundamental place of mutual curiosity. Curiosity on our part, wow, tell me more. This is cool. How could that be? Tell me more about what you do. This is amazing. Questions like that come up very early on in the process where we are fascinated by the conversation and the potential. But also curiosity on the part of the client or the agency or the organization we're working with, where they lean into us and say, how could this sound? What could we be measuring? Who could we reach? Who could we interview? What could we do to make this sound more accessible, more creative, right? That curiosity is always the starting point for an epic production. Conversations that start with, how can I get more downloads? And what have you done for me lately? They don't ever work out. The ones that end up with people referring to deliverables, I say that word and it almost makes me want to recoil. And the deliverables are important. Don't get me wrong. You got to do what you say you're going to do, and I'll come to that. But when the relationship and the creative collaboration is founded upon deliverables and this idea of a vendorship, SSN, no likey. And we will move on from that as quickly as we can. We'll finish what we started, but we'll move on from that. So going forward, we're going to be looking for creative partners and to work with organizations and brands who come to us with a sense of curiosity and then enter into that collaborative partnership with that as a core pillar. The next thing is integrity. And integrity, I think, is overused as a word and a value, but for us, it comes to journalistic integrity. A lot of us come from that place of there is something that needs to be said, and we're going to be the ones brave enough to say it. So we expect that of ourselves, but also of our clients. And here's what we also know is that when you do that with a podcast, when you say what is being unsaid, your show is a success. So all of these tie back to ultimate success, right? But it also comes back to our promise is that we're going to do everything we say we're going to do. So if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. But then we also expect that reflectively from our clients. And then the last one is my favorite, I think, which is courage. We value courage. We highly value courage. And this came from us looking at a lot of our clients, especially the entrepreneurs, arrive on our doorstep and they know they have something inside of them. They know they have this leadership potential. They know they have something worthy and they are terrified of how it's going to turn out when they open their mouths. So where we came with this is we value that courage, and that SSN creates a space and permission for you and your organization, your brand, your message, your story to be bravely told. We will support you in getting through those first jitters so that you can get to the other side. And so curiosity, integrity, and courage all come together to create a soup for success. And that was the ultimate decision we made last week, and it feels amazing. Which leads me to our mission. We did codify the mission between now and 2026. I've given us about 2.5, 3 years to achieve this mission. And it's that we want to tell 100 of these unique, courageous, purpose-led stories. And I don't know if I was able to even articulate that 3 months ago. But I know that if we chase the story like journalists are trained to do, that we will hit that goal. And this is where I'm saying we need to flip the telescope and look at media through the other lens, because there is a way to honor the story and change the fundamental revenue model of how it is funded. There is no break in integrity when you are holding the story to its highest integrity, when you are holding curiosity to its highest level, when you are bravely moving and courageously telling stories. How does that in and of itself need to be funded through an audience volume model only? It doesn't. So I'm looking forward to proving myself right, to be honest. That's our mission. 100 unique, courageous stories in the next 3 years. And maybe in 3 years, you'll call me up and say, Erin, oh my goodness, you obliterated that goal. Or Erin, you failed and you fell on your face. But listen, I'm going to go out trying. I'm going to go out kicking if I go out. But I don't think I will. I think we've got 100 in us. And I think we can do it in actually less than 3 years. But let's give myself the 3-year runway. So finally, what I want to leave you with today is the reading list. I have been reading a lot of really cool books, and I know it's the holidays and you might be looking for some cool inspiration. And I actually waited to record this episode because I was trying to finish the last book so I could make sure that I wanted to recommend it, and I do. So the first book I want to recommend is one that I was dubious whether I was even going to like it. But it's called Built to Sell. And if you're in business, especially if you are in media or if you have just left the media and you're trying to figure out what to do next, Built to Sell is a fast read. It's by a guy called John Warrilow. You can get it on Amazon. He's Canadian. He writes for the Globe and Mail. And the interesting thing that I learned from that is, skim it, read it over, highlight it, dog ear it, go back a couple times. It's that kind of book. But is that, yes, you are creative, but you do need a process. And I think it was reading his book that really kickstarted our focus on our team on how to put our creativity into a process, because we recognize that without that, we are willy-nilly and we can't draw a direct line to the work that we do and the impact it has. Without the process, you can't do it. So if you are new to the freelance world, if you've just quit your job, if you're looking to jump ship, because I know a lot of the listeners to this show are in that boat. They're curious about what the other side looks like. They're curious about how SSN has done what SSN has done. You need to understand process. So if you want a really easy way to build that into your brain, I recommend Built to Sell. Pick that book up. The next one I would highly, highly recommend is a book called That Will Never Work. And it's written by Marc Randolph, who you may or may not know is one of the co-founders, and he was the first ever CEO at Netflix. And this is the book that I just finished 2 days ago. And it's written like a memoir. It's not a business book at all. It reads very much like a novel of that portion of his life in the mid 90s right through to the early 2000s. It takes it from the inception of the idea of Netflix all the way to it being taken public on the NASDAQ in New York. And it's an incredible read, if only for the fact that throughout this book, it emphasizes those three values that I just told you SSN had landed on as our core values of curiosity. He was constantly asking, what is the real problem we're trying to solve here? What is the problem we're trying to solve here? That's an act of curiosity. It's actually an act of really vulnerable curiosity, right? So that integrity. There were points in the founding of Netflix where they said no to things that didn't actually make a heck of a lot of sense, or where they had to put down things that they thought were going to bring them sure success financially, but that they couldn't in their hearts actually follow through with. Integrity. And then courage. I mean, holy heck, he did things and drove that team along with Reed Hastings, who is the CEO and the ultimate driver of the company. They took that company to a place that was uncomfortably new. So they were constantly making courageous decisions on behalf of their audience, their users, their clients, their clients and the customers and the people who are subscribers eventually, because it wasn't always a subscription service either. So it was really neat to read that book. So if you have a chance, both of those are available on Amazon or at the bookstore. The first one is called Built to Sell. The second one is called That Will Never Work. And if you want to kind of break your brain and think creatively and look at how creative businesses can build value in the market, those are the two I would recommend. Those are the two I would recommend. And as I'm recording this, it is, what is the date? The 12th of December. It's 12/12 today, 12/12/23. So I'm heading into my birthday week. I'm heading into Christmas week, which is the same week. I'm heading into a break, and we're coming back in January, just ready to kick it. We're going to be announcing new workshops. If you want to learn from me, I'm making myself readily available once a month on the third Wednesday of every month. For January, February, and March, we're going to be doing workshops about how to launch successfully, workshops about how to grow successfully, workshops about those metrics, how to read the metrics, how to interpret the metrics, how to sell the metrics. Those are all in the works. They're all being planned, and I recommend you hook up with me on LinkedIn so that you do not miss the opportunity to register. We'll be announcing all the details and how to register really soon. And I'm just so looking forward to it. So I hope you have a great break. Thanks for supporting the show. We will talk to you and hopefully some awesome guests on this feed in the new year.